Welcome to my first and probably only guitar instructional video. This one deals with playing bluegrass tunes, up-tempo bluegrass tunes, using fingerstyle guitar technique. To begin with, if you're dealing with medium or slow tempo pieces, utilize the same types of techniques that you would use for folk or pop or country type tunes. You might hear something like this. I asked my love to take a walk, just to walk a little way, and it works fine. If you are dealing with a song, though, that is going Mach 1, at this point, fingerstyle players usually have a hard time figuring out what to do. This is my approach to doing it. It'll sound something like this. Well, I've got a pig home to pen, corn feeding my horn. All I need's a pretty little girl feeding when I'm gone. The idea there is to keep the drive of the song up. You're playing rhythm guitar. You do not want to slow the piece down. Okay, we're going to dive right into the techniques I use to accompany up-tempo bluegrass pieces. To begin with, you want to focus on the downbeats. This is what you do with your thumb. You want to put all the balance, the weight, and the drive into your thumb strokes. Just like a bass player would have to do if they were playing an up-tempo piece. Of course, that's not all that you should do. You need to put something else in there to create some interest and to balance the hand out. In this case, I would recommend throwing in an upstroke on a finger between each of those thumb notes. This is a simplified Travis pick, but when played up tempo, still hear the emphasis on those bass notes, and yet the drive that is being pulled out with the other notes. The next element that I'd like you to look at is to create some interest by adding in passing tones. These are notes that you throw in to lead your ear from one chord to another. For instance, if I'm playing a G chord, and I'm going down to an E minor, it's nice to put in that F sharp and lead your ear down into that E minor. You can do the same thing in reverse. The same works on a C to an A minor, an F to a D or a D minor. When you're moving from a D to a G, one of my favorite ones is to come up and catch that F sharp on the 6th string. And now you suddenly have this, even at up tempo speeds. A sound like that, and that's passing tones. The next thing I'd like to talk about just very briefly is the use of chromatic passing tones. The most common one I use is when I go from a G to a C and I have enough room to do it. I will sometimes play something like this, where I walk up the 5th string from the A to the B flat, B, and C, throwing in a finger note in between each one of those. Another one that's a chromatic bass run that I use a lot would be a C going to a D, where I drop down from the C to the B, and and walk back up into that D note. Going from a D to a G, I will sometimes walk up the 4th string like that. Those are chromatic bass runs, and you can incorporate those into your playing as well. The next technique is probably the most common, which is just standard bass runs. The most common of which I'm sure you have already played, is the G to the C run. Now at a slower tempo, that's not very slow. You would probably play it like that, where you hit the thumb on each of those notes. Up-tempo bluegrass tunes, you do not have that luxury because they go by too fast. You will break rhythm if you try. So what I want you to do is to think about substituting a hammer-on for one of those thumb notes. When you descend from that C to the G, use a pull-off. The same works going from a G to a D. And even from a D to a G, by just doing a little hammer onto that F sharp on the 4th string. You will find all sorts of applications, discover all sorts of new ways to apply these bass runs. Just make sure that you utilize hammer-ons and pull-offs so you do not break rhythm. Okay, this brings us to my favorite of the backup techniques. This is one that I picked up from Clarence White while I was still a teenager in high school. I'd listened carefully to Clarence White's backup, and I noticed that he very rarely would just alternate between 2 strings. Instead, he would create moving bass lines, and he would do so in a number of ways. One way, if he was on a G chord, would be to start off by hitting the 6th string, and then the 5th, and then he would move that finger from the 5th string to the 4th, and then take that finger off, and up to speed it would sound like this. 1, 2. He would vary that by sometimes going straight from the 6th string and creating a descending bass sound by moving that finger to the 4th and then back down. So we've got 6th, 4th on the 2nd, 4th open, 5th, 6th. 1, 2. Now you can do the same idea on a C chord, other chords. One of my favorites is to do this idea on a D chord, where I'm actually playing a D add 2, where I leave that 1st string open, sometimes, well, usually not emphasizing it unless I want some color to add into it. But what Clarence would do is this. He would walk down from the 4th to the 5th, then he would hook his thumb over the top, catching that F sharp, back up to that A, and it would sound like this. 1, 2. And these are moving bass lines. The last real right-hand technique, at least that I'm going to share on this video with you, involves a way to put some open space, some syncopation into your playing. For me, that involves breaking up this constant stream of 8th notes by occasionally plucking with the fingers of the right hand maybe twice in a row, skipping the bass note in between. Sometimes I will just do that with a single finger. This is especially effective if you are moving into an alternate chord. Let's say I'm playing and I go up into that C chord and I want to make it stand out by turning it into a seventh. I might play something like that. Today the trick, or the dessert treat if you would, for this video is the Lester Flatt G run, played on fingerstyle guitar. This is the most common run in bluegrass, and it sounds like this. And you've all heard it. Sort of a variation on the shaven haircut 2 bits ending. It works extremely well with fingerstyle guitar. I think better than flat pick guitar. You start off on a G chord, and this works on a C chord as well. But on the G chord, you start on the 6th string, go to the 5th, and do a double hammer-on the 1st and 2nd strings. Immediately go to the 4th string and do a hammer-on and a pull-off, and then just use your index finger to pluck the 3rd string. And you can hear how clean, even at really fast tempos, it is. You put all this together, and if I took the fastest bluegrass tune I can think of and applied all these techniques, it might sound like this. Well, I have been all around my old hometown. I have searched everywhere I know. I can't find any trace of the girl in this place, and there's nothing to do but go. And you can hear how effective fingerstyle backup on up-tempo bluegrass pieces can actually be.